kicks off its schedule this weekend. Herc, big news Friday, news we've been waiting on. U.S. Soccer announcing the format for the 2024 U.S. Open Cup, confirming that only 8 of a possible 26 teams from Major League Soccer will have their first teams participate. Those teams are Atlanta, Dallas, Houston, of course your defending champs, LAFC, RSL, San Jose, Seattle, and Sporting Kansas City. 9 MLS teams will be represented by their MLS Next Pro side, which of course we know is third division. All right, for more on the MLS perspective on all of this, thrilled to welcome into the show Nelson Rodriguez. He is the Executive Vice President of Sporting and Competition over there at MLS. Nelson, just want to thank you, first of all, maybe take some of the tension out of the air. This is obviously a very charged topic, but I do appreciate you coming on with us here on Futbol Americas. So welcome to the show.
I appreciate it, guys. It's nice to finally be invited.
There you go. The first of many appearances.
Be careful
hopefully.
what you wish for.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's get into this. Of course, we're going to talk about this probably mostly, Nelson, from a why are the first division teams of MLS not in the Open Cup? But I know from having heard from people on the MLS side, a big part of this is for you guys getting your MLS Next Pro teams into the competition. So I want to give you kind of the opportunity to address that here first. Why is it so important for those teams to be involved in this tournament?
Well, look, I think the question is, why would they be excluded from the tournament? They're a professional Division III side, just as League One and NISA and all the rest. You know, MLS invests a lot of money in player development. Some of the benefit of that is to the broader U.S. soccer ecosystem, and certainly, hopefully, to the U.S. national teams, both full men's and youth. So we always felt that it was right and proper to give those players an opportunity to compete in meaningful games. I understand that for some people, a dual ownership would disqualify that from happening, although we've seen that in other parts of the world and continues in certain parts of the world where a parent club and an affiliated club can compete in an Open Cup competition at the same time. But when U.S. Soccer wouldn't permit that, that's when we decided to push still for as many MLS Next Pro teams as we could.
Nelson, help us understand where the decision for Major League Soccer not being fully participants in the Open Cup came from. Like, what are the motivational factors coming in here? And when do you first remember these conversations happening?
Well, I think, Herc, that first, Major League Soccer has been pretty consistent with its belief that the tournament deserves more. And we have tried within the confines and the right way to express that opinion and work with constituents and with U.S. Soccer directly to deliver more to the Open Cup. I've been involved directly for several months, and I've always spoken to the people to whom I've been directed by U.S. Soccer to speak. And, you know, what we've wanted above everything is just for the tournament to be better for the participating teams, to be better for the players, to be better for partners, to be better for fans. And so a lot of our objectives were hopefully intended to make the tournament better. Greater investment from U.S. Soccer on a lot of levels, and I'm happy to go into any specifics. We thought it would be better for the tournament for pro teams to play non-pro opponents, or in MLS's case, for us to play non-MLS opponents and build the tournament so that there's more featured games between amateurs and pros and have the tournament build in its drama as it goes through. We also were very focused on standards. You know, we think that the standards of the tournament could and must improve. The venue, the fields, the broadcast standards, how much marketing goes into the tournament. So our motivation was to try to make the tournament better. In that process, for sure, there were things that MLS was looking for. MLS Next Pro participation was one. Another was, as we looked at the calendar, and this is why we asked for a waiver for 2024 only, when we asked for all our MLS Next Pro sides to be in, was just the overall calendar. with Copa America and Nations League and the Olympics, there's a lot of players who are going to be logging a lot of time, and we wanted to be mindful of that.
Nelson, since this was discussed and really kind of first became public, we've heard reaction from kind of all over American soccer, but specifically in MLS, we've heard from some coaches who said that they want to play and want to win this trophy. We've heard from some players who don't want to be kind of pulled out of the Open Cup. When you guys were both reaching this decision and then kind of taking it, what was the feedback like internally around MLS? Was it unanimous that everybody kind of wanted out?
No, it wasn't. And this is as you've indicated, this is a topic that evokes a lot of passion. And our decisions didn't come lightly, and they didn't come without considering all points of view, including the point of view and the input of fans. You know, we conducted a fan survey in the fall of 23, and a lot of what came out of that fan survey reinforced our belief that the tournament needed attention, that the tournament needed resources, that the tournament needed investment. So we recognized that this was going to require sacrifice on everyone's part, or many teams' part. This is for 24 only. It's our understanding that U.S. Soccer will convene a working group to discuss 25 and beyond, and we hope to participate in that working group and find a tournament and a tournament format that works for everybody.
Nelson, you've been around forever in Major League Soccer. I remember you being with Chivas USA. You were a GM with Chicago Fire. You go way back, and I don't understand in this tournament why some teams don't take it seriously. It's 7 games, you get a trophy, you get money, and you get a CONCACAF Champions Cup spot. Why not let these individual teams make their own decisions on whether they take it seriously or not, if they want to field kids like Liverpool does in the FA Cup in the earlier rounds? If it's good enough for Liverpool, why can't it be good enough for the Colorado Rapids?
It may very well end up there, Hercules. I know from, personal experience when I was with Chicago Fire, we tried very hard to win that tournament in every match. We played the majority of our best 11, if not our whole best 11 from the first match we were assigned to, as long as we went in the tournament. And I do think it's important that clubs be able to find their own path and their own way. Every club's in a different evolutionary cycle. Every club has different pressures. When I was with Chicago, it was the pressure to try to restore some glory to the city and to the club. And there's a proud history of the Open Cup with Chicago Fire having won 4 of those already. So I do think that the possibility of allowing clubs to choose their own destiny is real, and we'll discuss that with our clubs and with U.S. Soccer going forward.
Nelson, help me square something here, because you keep saying kind of what the tournament needs, that the tournament needs more. And listen, you're not going to find 2 guys in the media that love the Open Cup more than us 2, but we will fully acknowledge that, the tournament absolutely 100% needs to grow. But help us square the idea that the tournament can grow, can get to where you want it to get to with less MLS input and less MLS participation.
Well, I think for starters, what you want is teams, as Hercules just said, who are dedicated to the tournament, who want to compete, who want to win, who want to help promote. I don't think you want any club looking at this as a nuisance. And so I think the investment that's required comes in the form of, let's start with travel allowance. I steadily said to U.S. Soccer in all my meetings with them, no team should play in this tournament at a financial loss. For an amateur team to have to be at a financial loss to play in the tournament just does not seem right to me. And I also think it's a little bit unfair to rely on just MLS's revenue generation to backstop or subsidize the entirety of the tournament. I've mentioned the standards, and I think upholding those standards are important. It's difficult to understand what the draw is for the tournament. How are teams paired against one another? Is it known ahead of time when you win a match who your next opponent would be? I think all of those types of things are the attention and resource that we respectfully tried to request of U.S. Soccer on numerous occasions. And that goes beyond the number of MLS clubs that are in it. And again, we have 17 sides. We have the 8 other CONCACAF Champions Cup sides that we've set aside. I heard Paul say he would understand that, and we appreciate that. So we think that there's a lot of work that can be done there. We're prepared to help support U.S. Soccer and all the other constituents, USL, NISA, the amateur division, to have this be the unifying event that it can and should be for soccer in America.
What about this argument for fixture congestion? Because obviously that's being used with a lot of these teams that are in CONCACAF Champions Cup. And for me, it's just kind of it's a difficult pill to swallow. I understand Leagues Cup exists, right? And I kind of even understand why that exists. But put Leagues Cup aside. Like, I live in Washington, D.C. D.C. United has scheduled 5 in-season friendlies over the last 2 years. And they played 4 Open Cup games in that time. They just announced, DC United, a partnership where they're going to play the Ethiopian national team at Audi Field this year. For those that don't know, Washington, D.C. is by far the largest Ethiopian American community in the United States. There's no question as to why that game is being played. So, Nelson, help us understand how we can kind of take that fixture congestion argument when even beyond Leagues Cup, there are so many other games that I would argue are unnecessary popping up on the schedule.
Yeah, it's a fair question, Sebastian. And it's not just about fixture congestion. I also think it's about player load. The distinction there in my mind is congestion is principally around a high number of games over a short period of time. But that player load is cumulative over the course of a season. And again, this speaks to club choice, club decisions as to how they want to manage player load, how they want to manage their roster, how they want to find fixtures that help develop emerging talent. And all of these things conflict at times and compete. Allowing teams to find the right choice for them is an important consideration, has to fit into some broader objectives that we may have as a league, that the USL may have for its league, that NISA may have for its league, and so on and so forth. But I think they're not incompatible. And as we looked at the calendar, again, looking ahead to late last year into 25, we saw a lot of these matches. And there's more national team events, more confederation events. The FIFA Club World Championship next year has become bigger. The Open Cup will be impacted in whatever form it takes in 2026 by having the World Cup in our country. So I think that's what's dictated here is getting all the constituents in a room at the same time to work together to find a solution.
Nelson, what about the responsibility that MLS plays in American soccer? I'm thinking about the FA Cup and Manchester United, a Liverpool, those big clubs, and the responsibility they play in that pyramid. And I think about this way, especially since the U.S. Open Cup is the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup, one of the original owners in Major League Soccer. Without him, MLS probably wouldn't be where it is today. Does MLS have a certain amount of responsibility when it comes to American soccer?
Yeah, I believe we do. And I believe part of that is at times leading. And we, in this instance, understandably disagreeable to some, we tried to lead. And we tried to lead a situation that would bring about positive change to the Open Cup for all the competing teams and for fans across who support any league or any team in it. So we accept that responsibility. We understand that with that responsibility comes criticism or difficult decisions from time to time. But the league has supported the Open Cup, has made serious intentions to win the Open Cup, and has been fortunate enough to win the Open Cup for, I think since 1999. So I hope our interest in that way isn't doubted. We just want to see things get better.
So let's put on paper what maybe some of those things to get better are, because you mentioned before improvements and maybe you had some specific suggestions. I think what we all want to see at the end of the day is all or as many as possible MLS teams in the Open Cup. What would it take? What are those improvements, Nelson, that you would say, okay, you know what, this competition is at the level for all MLS teams or a majority to be involved?
Well, first, it's time to give U.S. Soccer some credit here because they have made improvements in the travel allowance. They have made improvements in the scheduling where we have more of the proverbial David versus Goliath and the opportunity for more of those to take place later in the tournament. 8 championship teams were seated alongside the 8 MLS teams. We think that's a net positive, so that later in the tournament we have more opportunities for cup sets rather than just like teams from the same league playing and defeating one another. So we think those are improvements. We'd like to see improvements in the broadcast standards and in the marketing and advertising of the tournament so that fans know where to go see it. Our fan survey in October of last year showed that of core MLS fans, only 18% could accurately tell where the tournament was being shown via broadcast partner. Only 18%. And the Open Cup itself was the 3rd most interesting and most important championship that MLS clubs participated in, garnering only 6% of respondents. This clearly shows that we collectively, we all need to do a better job to make this event where it belongs.
All right, there he is, Nelson Rodriguez of Major League Soccer. Nelson, thanks so much for the time tonight. Appreciate you being a good sport and coming on and taking the punches as we threw them at you.
Hey, guys, I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you and the fans. Keep up the good work.